As rockets light up the sky over Israel and Palestine, you've got to ask, is this just another news story, or are we seeing the Bible's end-of-day predictions unfold in real time? Ancient texts have hinted that this part of the world could be ground zero for events that might change life as we know it. In the Bible's book of Revelation, there's a prophecy about a monumental battle that's said to occur between two dominant forces. This apocalyptic clash is foretold to take place on a specific geographical plane located in what is today northern Israel. This area, known as Har Megiddo, has historical roots stretching back to ancient Palestine. Interestingly, the term Armageddon, which has become synonymous with end-of-the-world scenarios, actually derives its name from this very plain. So, are the Bible's end-time events upon us? In this video, we unravel the intricate connections between the latest Israeli-Palestinian hostilities and the Bible's earth-shattering end-times predictions. You see, the Bible has been hinting at major events in this region for thousands of years. Books like Daniel and Ezekiel suggest potential conflicts involving Israel. Jerusalem isn't just another city. It's been a battleground for spiritual, political, and military power for thousands of years. This city alone has been conquered and reconquered more than 40 times. So when the Bible calls it an immovable rock that nations will unsuccessfully try to upend, causing harm to themselves, it's not just poetry. This suggests that Jerusalem is crucial in prophetic events. But why should you, regardless of your faith, care about what's happening here? Firstly, the political ramifications are massive. For the first time in centuries, Russia and Iran are forming a military alliance, a development that eerily aligns with what some interpret as biblical prophecies. Russia's sold missiles to Iran, and Iran has provided drones to Russia for use in the Ukraine war. Considering Iran's history of saying they want to erase Israel from the face of the earth, that's no small matter. This unprecedented partnership seems almost like a fulfillment of what the Bible predicted. And let's not forget about Hamas. The news reported that Hamas attacked Israel in what was described as a surprise attack, leading Israel to declare war on Palestine. This group is more than just a random player in the region. They're closely aligned with Iran. In fact, there's strong evidence to suggest that Iran supplied them with the weapons they used to attack Israel. So, if Israel decides to counter Iran directly for funding these actions, it could trigger a situation mentioned in the Bible. A chapter that describes Magog, assumed to be Russia, being pulled into a conflict with Israel almost reluctantly, along with its ally, Persia, or modern-day Iran. Russia has been elbow-deep in the Ukraine conflict, and Iran's influence in the Middle East is growing by the day. These aren't just news bulletins. They're chess moves on a board that spans continents. It's the culmination of geopolitical shifts that have been years in the making. So when these nations cozy up, we're not just talking politics. We're talking a seismic shift in global power dynamics. If you read a headline saying, "Russia attacks Israel," be prepared for the possibility that Bible prophecy is unfolding before your eyes. This is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Some argue that the recent surprise attack by Hamas was anything but a shocker. To put this into perspective, think back to events like Pearl Harbor, where sudden attacks led to nations rallying together. The idea is that these unexpected actions might actually be calculated to influence public opinion or trigger a particular response. Now, let's look at the timing. Benjamin Netanyahu has recently taken the helm as Israel's leader. He's outlined some ambitious goals: resolving the Arab-Israeli conflict, curbing Iran's nuclear ambitions, and boosting Israel's military might. Given these objectives, it raises the question, could recent aggressions, like the attack from Hamas, be a calculated move aimed at fulfilling Netanyahu's outlined goals? Interestingly, US President Joe Biden has also been vocal about Iran. Last year, he spoke of freeing Iran during its anti-government protests. Something to note, especially when you consider the US's stance on Iran. If the US officially identifies Iran as the arms supplier to Hamas, this could offer both Israel and the US a pretext to take military action against Iran. Such a move would likely force Russia and Iran into a real military alliance, interestingly aligning with what some interpret as biblical prophecies about Armageddon, said to occur in northern Israel. The stakes are higher than ever, and the geopolitical chessboard is set for moves that could have profound implications, not just for the Middle East, but potentially fulfilling age-old prophecies as well. So when we see news of attacks, we have to ask, who benefits? Who has the most to gain by turning public opinion? The battle isn't just on the ground, it's in the narrative too. That affects not just Israelis and Palestinians, but has ripple effects that could touch every one of us, from gas prices to national security. So what's the end game? Israel and Palestine are like a tinderbox, a small spark away from making headlines that even the Bible may have foreseen. It might be a good time to start paying attention, especially if those headlines start mentioning Russia and Iran getting into the mix. We're dealing with more than just current events matching up with ancient texts. We're talking about a tangled web of religion, politics, and power, all intersecting in a region that's been a hotspot for conflict since, well, forever. Whether or not you think these prophecies are materializing, there's one thing we can all agree on. The events in Israel and Palestine are something we can't afford to ignore. If these ancient writings are correct, then the events unfolding could be way bigger than any of us ever imagined. So, if you're a Christian, two things you might consider doing. Look up and keep an eye on the sky, as Jesus said. But also, hit your knees and pray for peace in this troubled region.